I have a quote of the day.
All right.
Oh, we're recording already.
We're recording. Here we go. Woo!
Awesome. Hey, it's my turn to start today. Georgie's doing our educational session this morning, so it's up to me to say hello and welcome to the Georgie and Patty Show. I think
Hey, Georgie.
And I'm Patty. Maybe we should change the order. I wonder. It's the Patty and Georgie show this morning. No, it's the Georgie and Patty show, and our topic today is all about people, understanding people, communicating better with people. And Georgie was giving me a preview of this morning's presentation, and I'm so excited because this is one of those areas where my partner is amazing and I am slightly less amazing. So I expect I'm going to learn as much as everybody else this morning as Georgie shares her vast wisdom in communicating with people and understanding them. And our quote of the day comes from Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And it is, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. I believe that is relevant to our discussion this morning.
I would say so.
You would be the one that would know. So I will turn it over to my partner, and she can take us away on understanding people.
Okay, it's such a relevant, it's such a relevant quote. It's really just that simple. and not. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna try to use my mouse. Sometimes my mouse doesn't like to work, but yeah. And just so you know, it's garbage day in my neighborhood, so when the garbage man comes and when my neighbor brings my garbage can back to my front door, if he does it before the call is over, the dog will bark. And that's life. That's Wednesday. I don't know what to tell you. All right. So knowing that, okay. Today we are going to talk about understanding people. And we want to do this so that we can actually connect and communicate better in our businesses. So most of us here are in some kind of business. We're purpose-driven, and the things that we do is actually create transformation for people. We help people become better people, better versions of themselves, and really start to get the things that they want. But often what Patty and I find is a lot of our clients, really when you boil it down, you're in transformation. And no matter what kind of business you have, but particularly in your transformation company, we want to make money because money is what's making this a business. If not, it would just be a hobby. And one of the ways we make money and sales is through talking to people. Lots of people sometimes, different kinds of people, but it requires people. So we really want to know what makes people tick. Just like in the quote, how do we understand them? How do we get in their world? How can we step in their shoes, see what's going on, inside their brain? It's key if we really want to be able to help people. So this is your potential client. And the key word here is this one human. She is an individual. She is like no other. She has her own thoughts, her own ideas, her own plans, her own personality. She has this picture of what her life looks like. She is not a carbon copy of all the other potential clients you've had in front of you. She is her own unique individual self. And if you look at her as if she's like everyone else who's come through your door or two other people who've come through your door, you might run into some problems. But if you can shift your thinking into thinking, she is unique, she is an individual, you're going to have way more success. If you try to put her into the mold and try to make her fit into the way you did someone else, that's not going to appeal to her because she's her own person. And why would she want to buy something that's not going to help her fulfill her dreams, make her plans work, fit with who she is. She's not. No matter how nice you are, no matter how kind you are, no matter how well you say certain words, she's not going to want to do that. So I'm going to give you permission here, because what we do is we help people get what they want. We talk about this a lot, especially those of us who are in transformation, we're purpose driven. We want to help people get what they want, even if it's not you. So you have permission to help people. And sometimes that means referring them to somebody else. But before you can actually help them, whether it's you or someone else, you have to understand them. You have to know what motivates them. What is it that gets them to buy? And we talk about this a lot. We want to know, where are they now? What do they want? How do they want it? And then how do we build the bridge between that and what we offer? But one of those big keys is being able to understand their motivation. So that's what I'm going to help you do today. So I'd like you to imagine, and if you can do this with every single person that comes before you, when you're getting ready to have your discovery call or do your assessment or have a phone call with somebody, I want you to imagine that this is a magical being, a magical human, and they come from a planet that you know nothing about. You don't know what life's like there. You don't know how they spend their days. You don't know what's important to them. You know nothing, because they are from somewhere you've never been before, you've never seen before, you've probably never even heard of it. It's like, what? This is literally like magic. So imagine that is the being, the human that's in front of you. Then we're going to go through these 10 things. So expect that it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, this is someone you don't know anything about. You don't know where they're from. You don't know how they got here. You know nothing. So oftentimes we think about these discovery calls and we want to be like, how fast is it? How fast can I get it done? How many can I do in a day? Can I get it done in 15 minutes? In my opinion, not effectively. In 15 minutes, could you learn everything about a magical being from someplace you've never been before? No. And this is what this person is in front of you. And if you do this part well in your sales conversations, the rest of it becomes so easy. This is where you learn the information. This is where you connect with people. This is where you start to understand them. This is where the assessment fits in, but this is the part that takes a little bit of time. So expect that, prepare for it, plan for it. 2, no assumptions. This is a magical person. You know nothing. So they are a clean slate and you are a clean slate. Because so often we show up with in these conversations already prejudging how this is going to be. Maybe you didn't like the tone of their email. Maybe you didn't like the question they posed when you first got them on the phone to book this call. Maybe you've already decided, I don't think they're going to be a right fit for me. This isn't the kind of person I want to work with. They don't have any money. You're coming to the call with all of these assumptions. So I encourage you to do your best to wipe all of that out, because the reality is if you've only had a quick conversation with them to get them on your calendar or they've booked it from somewhere else, you do not know. You're only making your own judgments about it. So no assumptions. Number 3, be fully present. So often, and especially when we're just getting started or when sales conversations are really uncomfortable for us, it's really challenging to be present because we're so busy thinking in our own mind, am I going to say the right thing? Will I follow my agenda? What am I going to say next? What if they ask a question I don't know the answer to? What if I can't help them? What if they're totally wrong? What if I totally screw this up? And we're so caught up in all these thoughts that are going on in our own mind that we miss so much. And so it's how can I practice being present with people? And there's things you can do actually outside of being in a sales conversation. Like if you're someone who finds your mind is always going, you're always having these thoughts that are increasing maybe your anxiety or your fears around talking to people and connecting with people, look for things you can do outside of this to kind of build up sort of your presence muscle. And so maybe that's practicing, being more mindful, doing some mindfulness practices, or doing some meditation, doing some breathing. Like if you notice when you're in front of somebody and all you can hear is your own stuff, your own chatter, just take a couple deep breaths. It's totally fine. You might think they're going to notice, but they won't, because they're going to be talking, because you're going to be listening. But really get into your body and make sure you've prepared yourself before the call. Get grounded, get centered, do whatever you need to do to be fully present for that magical being in front of you. I mean, how exciting to get to learn and discover. It's like a grand adventure. Like imagine if you approach your calls like that. It's like, whoa, this is super cool. And then there's the power of perspective. Often we show up only seeing things from our point of view. So we want everything to fit into our model and how we see things. And there's kind of three different perspectives happening there. There's yours, there's the person in front of you, and then there's this kind of bigger perspective that's seeing everything as the whole. So there's a really cool NLP exercise. It's called perceptual positions. So I thought I would share that with you guys today because A, it can be really powerful in your sales conversations. It can be really powerful in your own life with other people if you can learn to use it. And you can use it in the moment too, and you can use it after things have happened to kind of maybe look at where did things go wrong? How could I have maybe shifted that? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about a situation where maybe you, with another person in communication, where maybe it didn't go as well as you would have liked it to go. There was some challenge there. And so when you have that in your mind, as you listen to the beeping, as you pull that up, close your eyes, and I want you just to be you. And I want you to see the situation from your eyes. And I want you to replay that conversation. So I want you to hear your voice. I want you to look at the other person. I want you to hear what you said, hear what they said, but you're looking at it from your own point of view. And then just gather a bit of knowledge that you have there from that. Now what I want you to do is I want you to step into the shoes of the other person. And so if you think about that conversation, and if you're sitting, just do your best to think about what they were like. So if their arms were crossed, maybe cross your arms. If their hands were on their hips, maybe put your hands on your hips. If their head was tilted, maybe tilt your head. But really get into their shoes. And then I want you to see you from their eyes. So you're looking at yourself. I want you to say their words because you're them. I want you to hear you speaking as you to this person, but you're them. And I want you to replay the conversation and see everything from their perspective. You are them. And then just notice what you notice from their point of view. You don't have your own, it's only theirs. How are they seeing you? How are they hearing you? How are they feeling about this interaction? Take all that in. See what you gain. And now, this other one, it's kind of, you're going to pretend like you can either be like a camera in the room or on the wall that's looking down at you guys, or there's someone, a guy by the name of William Ury, who has a book called Getting to Yes with Yourself, and he's a master negotiator, like big time negotiator, and he calls this going out onto the balcony. So let's just imagine then that there you are on the balcony, you're looking down, you see the other person, and you're watching the interaction. Notice what you observe from having this higher level perspective, from being up on the balcony. Notice if it changes anything. See what kind of information you can gather when you're up there looking down. And then you can take this information and you might change things moving forward, and use it how you see fit to use it. But what it can really do is so often we only see things through our own eyes. So if you find that you're having a conversation with someone and you might get a little bit triggered, for lack of a better word, you might start to feel yourself maybe getting upset, maybe getting anxious, the communication's not going as well as you would like it to go. If you can stop for a second and switch over and start to see things from their perspective, even sometimes we might imagine things, right? But if we can imagine what might be going on for them, because we don't know what happened prior to them getting on the call with us or prior to us seeing them, really, but what else could be going on for them? It might bring a little more compassion, a little more empathy to the conversation, and you might find it's a little easier for the conversation to go smoothly. I personally love that thing. I found it really, really useful in communicating with people, especially people that just really trigger my buttons sometimes. And I'm like, okay, I need to step back and go, hang on a second. What else could it be? Let me go over there and see what could be happening from that side of things. Number 5 is something called sensory acuity, which is also an NLP term is how I know it. Could be some other term, but anyway, that's where I learned it from. So really we're looking at kind of like the body language and what's happening with the person in front of us. Because a lot of time, the information we're getting through our conversations, not a lot of it is actually verbal. There's a lot of stuff happening at an unconscious level. So if we're paying attention to people, just notice, when do they lean in? When do they smile? When do they possibly get a look of concern on their face? And are you interpreting that correctly? Is it concern or not? And this is where having the conversations and being able to ask questions and have dialogue to confirm what we're seeing is really important. And when we're paying attention to what's happening with the other person in front of us, it also helps us to be more present. You might notice their skin start to change colors. Maybe they blush a bit. Maybe, oftentimes you hear people and they'll think if people have their arms crossed, they're mad or closed off. Maybe they're just cold. Maybe it's just comfortable. Maybe they just like to sit that way. Again, we go back to making so many assumptions about things that aren't necessarily true. But the more you pay attention to this individual person that's in front of you, how they do things is not necessarily like anybody else. So we want to learn the different things that mean things for them. What does the smile mean? What does the tilt mean? Maybe I'm curious. Maybe I'm excited. But pay attention to those cues, because as you're gaining more information, you are learning so much about the person across from you and the world that they are coming from. And really, great connection with someone is really, just like you said in the beginning, being able to step into their skin, step into their world, being able to understand them first, then we can move forward. So really, really paying attention to the kind of physiological things that are happening with the person that's in front of you. Listen fully. Listen with curiosity. So often and I know most of you have probably heard this statement before, right? About most people are just listening to understand, to reply, not to understand, to reply. We want to listen to understand. Most people today feel like they are not heard, like people aren't listening to them. So if you can actually learn to really listen to people in the way where they actually feel seen, heard, and understood, your level of rapport and connection will be huge. You will build something that many people don't do, because we're often, like, say, listening so that I know the next thing to say, because I know how I can help you, and I just can't wait to get to my stuff so I can share how amazing it is and how great I am and the transformation you're going to have through working with me. Way too soon. Really listen. Listen to where their pain points are. Listen to where their struggles. What do they really want? What's really important? Because this is where people often ask, how do I ask great questions? From listening. Like, that's where they come from being really curious, to wanting to understand, where is this planet that you're from? What kind of being are you? Who else is there? So if you kind of think of these conversations as an adventure to a place that you're going to get to travel to with this person, you have to listen fully, being fully present and listening. And then you can reflect back. And I think this is another thing we often hear, especially if you've done any kind of sales training or things like that. People will tell you to, repeat back the words people have said to you, because people love to hear things in their own words, which is true. And you're not reflecting back for the purpose of reflecting back so that you can convince them or manipulate them to buy something. You're actually doing this because you want to understand them. You want to make sure that you're on the same page. Am I really in your world? Did I understand you correctly? Do I really get where you're coming from and what you're feeling? That's why we reflect these things back. And typically you're not going to repeat back every single word they said it in the way they said it, right? We're paraphrasing because we want to make sure that we understand them. If you are, let's say you're a relationship coach and someone is coming to work with you, you might say, okay, so let me get this right. So you're here because you would like to have more meaningful conversations with your husband. Yes, that's totally what I want. Great. Now I understand. Now I can start to put some pieces together. But it's really important, because we often also say words where we assume we know the meaning of them, right? We assume we know the meaning of relationship, of respect, of connection. We actually don't. We only know the meaning that we have for that word. We can actually ask people, tell me what you mean by a deeper connection. Help me to understand that. When you say he doesn't respect you, what does that mean? How do I know? Help me understand. Oh, I really love coaching. Oh, great. I have my definition of coaching and you have your definition of coaching. Great. Can you tell me what coaching means to you? Right? Like, these are things that you really help you understand people and get on the same page with people. And we often just, again, back to assumptions, we assume my meaning is your meaning. And we don't really know unless we ask, which leads to really good questions. And I liked this little quote thing I saw, which is, it's not so much what do I need to know, but more, what do I not know? I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what your struggle is. I don't know what you want. I don't know how I can help you. I don't know if I can help you. Like, I find coming from this space actually creates a little more curiosity. It starts to create better questions, right? Oh, okay, so if I don't know what you've done before, the question might be, so tell me, what have you tried before? Gives me tons of information. If I don't know what you're looking for, so tell me, what do you want? Why are you here? What would that look like? Can you tell me more? Why does that matter to you? All of these kinds of questions help us really get inside their world. It helps us to see the picture they've created in their mind for what they really want help with. Because that's why we're here. We are here to help them get what they want and see if it's a fit for us to be able to do that. But until we spend this time finding out what that is, we don't know. So really good questions. And oftentimes, I know in some, coaching schools, and we're kind of going through our method, you ask this question, you ask this question, you ask this question. And we're asking the question for the sake of asking the question because someone has put it in a formula for us to follow, as opposed to understanding, why am I even asking this question? What do I want to know? You know, so really understand, where am I going with this? What is it that I don't know that I'm trying to figure out? And then what question is appropriate here, instead of running through your list of questions that someone has said, this is the formula for a great intake session. Think. It goes back to that thinking thing that we talked about before. And then be aware of your own projections. And it's so easy to do this because we are always running our own stuff, our own filters, our own beliefs, all of those things. And oftentimes we show up as that. And what we want to do is to be able to disassociate ourselves from our own opinions, thoughts, and things about people, so that we can really be present and understand them. For example, if you are a relationship coach and you're working in a relationship situation with a client, and she's like, yeah, he doesn't come home on time. You might have your own opinions about not coming home on time. So you might be like, oh yeah, total jerk. You don't know that, right? It's your opinion that we start to cloud the situations with our own beliefs about certain things. So it's really, really important to be able to separate yourself from that. And this is where it's also important, if you have been triggered before you get into a session, or you're coming in maybe at a higher emotional level than you would like, we really have to learn to kind of compartmentalize things and be able to deal with that later. Because we don't want to take our stuff into conversations with people. We really want to come from that place of that clean slate, that curiousness, that no assumptions, no judgments, not my stuff. I know nothing. And I want to learn, you know, your points of view. I want to learn what you believe about things. I want to learn what him being late means to you, right? I want to know what picking up the phone means to you, not what it means to me. I had a really great example of this. I was doing a talk actually last week, I guess, on Zoom. I'm really big picture. I take my, we're going to change the world thing into pretty much everything I do. And there was a lady who asked a question, and she's like, what if I don't want to change the world? Oh, all right. Then you don't have to. But it's one of those things where these, and granted, I was giving a talk, whatever, but I am projecting my grand vision of how, oh, everybody wants to show up like this, don't they? Doesn't everybody want to change the world? Apparently not. Apparently not. You know? And so that's that space. Fortunately, she asked the question and you can shift things, but it was like, I realized from her question, I was like, oh, I might want to consider that when I do this talk again. Not everybody wants to change the world. Sometimes they just want to impact their own family. So how can I be more aware of that and incorporate that into what I'm doing? Because I was like, oh yeah, my projection, totally bringing it in. So sometimes they're not always negative, and so we don't even recognize them, but be aware. And then, of course, the more you are able to understand yourself, the better it is to understand others, the easier it is to connect and communicate with them, because we do see everything through our own lens, through our own filters, through our own experiences, our values, our beliefs, our meanings of things, our interpretations, our judgments. Everything is seen through that filter. So the more we can look inside ourselves and really question ourselves about, oh, what is it that I really believe? What is it that I really value? Noticing when we get triggered by certain things. Why is that bugging me so much? Why do I have problems with this kind of a person or those kinds of opinions? Where do I get on my soapbox? What is it about that that's creating this, that I'm creating this stuff that I'm obviously going to be seeing the world through? So the more we can spend some time in some self-reflection, and then going, oh, okay, now how do I disassociate myself from all of that so that I can be present for this incredible, magical person in front of me? But if we never ever look at ourselves, if we never ever question our own thoughts and actions and opinions and feelings, it's really, really challenging to be in that space where we can be fully present, where we can be wanting to connect with people. And these are the things that will make your sales conversations better. It will make your sales conversations easier. It will make that whole process seem a little more fun. It will help you to get excited to get on the phone and look forward to talking to people and connecting with people. Often we're looking for the thing of, well, just tell me what to say and how to say it and what's the formula and how do I follow it. We can give you all of those things, but it's these kinds of things, if you learn to implement them, you'll be better at it. You'll be able to do the pieces better. They will be easier. Because like I said, this is the stuff that sits at the front end of the conversation. This is the place where the magic happens, that you then pull that through the whole conversation, where people are then like, how do I work with you? Because you've been able to do really well at building the bridge and getting into their world, seeing how you can help them, saying the things that are only relevant to them, the things that are going to benefit them. That's the magic. That's the secret sauce. And all of these things you can get better at, for sure. And then if you forget everything, you can't remember, oh my God, you just gave me 10 steps. There's 10 things I should be doing in my sales conversations. Just remember this. Be human. That's all. Drop into your heart and be a human. Be kind, have compassion, have empathy. It's totally okay to say, wait a second, I don't think I actually understood you. Can I ask a little more, get a little more information? I'm not sure this is going the way I kind of wanted it to go. Can we back up? Can we take a step back? You know that thing I asked you 6 questions ago? It's kind of still sticking in my mind. I need to go back there. All of that, totally okay. Because this is a human in front of you and you are a human. And I really believe we have these innate qualities in us. We've just kind of been taught that this is the way we do it. And for some reason, when we throw business and sales conversation on top of this thing, it gets scarier. It's like, I forgot I was a human. I forgot that's a human in front of me. Oh my goodness, how do I talk to this person? Like a person. So if you forget everything else, it's totally fine. Just breathe, human to human. Most things can be figured out. Most people are pretty forgiving, especially if you just, that's a human being in front of me and I care about them. That's it. I care about people. You will be okay in most cases. And that's what I got. That's what I got for you today.
Woohoo. Do we have any questions? Do we have any sticky situations that maybe have come up that Georgie might be able to help with or shed more light?
Totally. You know, there's when I'm doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Like literally I could deep dive each one of these things into, and here's how you would do this, and here's how you would do this, and here's how you would do this. So I boiled it down to giving you one tiny sort of perspective tool, but it's, yeah, there's just so many things. But yeah, if we can just remember, be a human. Deep dive sounds like future episodes.
Could potentially be. So I have, before the show, I'm like, okay, Georgie, if nobody asks you a question, I'm going to ask you a challenging question.
Perfect.
So one of the things I've noticed about myself and my interactions with clients and the kinds of clients that I work with is that a certain type of personality I run into problems with. Like I can almost pick out the pattern. It's, the very confident, very what I would call like a power personality. Like they know what they want. They want to make all the decisions. They want to be in control. They're not always all that open to suggestions or advice or feedback, which I feel is the value that I offer. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, I'm getting some hints as to how this is happening and how I might be appearing to them. Super helpful. But the question that I still have from this is, the magic is slowing down. I get that. But associated with this particular personality type is they do not want to slow down. They want to move fast. And they don't want, they don't even want to book a long call. They just want to get through the agenda, and they want to cut through it and quick. And part of what I'm offering is slow down and think about stuff. What do you got for that?
Oh, so many things. So I think oftentimes too, when we are, especially I'll just use the word triggered because I don't have a better word, right? And so we're coming to this place of, I have value and I know this is what you need, and you're not listening to me.
Yeah, that sums it up.
You're not doing what I'm saying. What is the point? You hired me. What is the problem? So we're working ourselves up over here because, hello, this is an issue. And oftentimes, like you say, these people, they are fast thinking. They move quick. They're like, and so you're stuck over here, and you don't hear me. And he's like, yeah, what do you got? Okay, next. Here's the agenda. What's the problem? Let's keep going. This is what I want. This is what I want. So often it can be a conversation ahead of time. How do you work? This is what I like. Kabam, kabam, kabam. Okay, this is how I work. I understand that when you come to the call, you want a 15-minute call and you want all the answers. For that to happen, it has to look like this. So sometimes there's those things that can be set up ahead of time. Sometimes it's also coming back, matching them. So toe to toe sometimes. And oftentimes they like it. And you're like, what the heck? Like, you like that? And they do. They're like, yeah, bring it. Because that's their norm. They're thinking, yeah, this is how I communicate. Cool, good, got it, awesome, love it. Which is so uncomfortable for us if that's not our personality. And this goes back into that matching, like it's called a matching thing, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that was odd and awkward. And oftentimes it gets us what I want.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, interesting, but I'll do it, but I think it's that seeing from where they're coming from. Sometimes power people, it's like, okay, maybe they are really busy. They don't have a lot of time. They literally carve their day out in 15-minute increments because they have so much on their plate. So then it's like, okay, so if that's me, how do I make this work for both of us? Maybe I make sure I'm their last appointment of the day so that they feel they've got time. They're not waiting to go to the next thing. Maybe I asked for a pre-work to get through it. But so it just, and then having the conversation. Here's what's going on for me. I'm lost. I feel like you don't like me. I don't know even how to communicate with you. Do you actually want me to help you? In kind of in that nice way. But often it's again, we get used to how we communicate and how we do things. And so it's like being able to step out of that and look at them and go, okay. And then again, it's a skill oftentimes to be able to match those people when it's so far out of our realm of how we would do things, and then a lot of times too, they like it to be their idea. So it's like, ooh, now how do I get creative for them to think that my idea is actually their idea so that we get on the same page? That reminding them, well, this is what you said you wanted, right? Okay. I think you might have said this 2 calls ago that you wanted this. Oh, right. Okay, cool. So it's it can become actually fun too sometimes, especially if you like the work the person's doing and you think, I do kind of like a challenge. Let me see. I mean, sometimes they might just be, I think oftentimes people think power people are jerks, right? And that's where our own assumptions
May have
come,
thought that.
right? And this is where our own assumptions come in, where it's so how likely is it that you're going to communicate effectively with, every time I look at you, you big fat jerk, 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 jerk. This is what's running. Probably the things coming out of my mouth aren't as effective as they could be. So again,
Probably not great when I refer to these people as a problem client, or a client from hell.
exactly.
Maybe not the best kind of frame of mind.
Totally, because that's how we're going in. We're it's not the blank slate anymore. It's, you're a problem.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
a pain in my ass. Like, we are setting the tone for the call before they ever get on it. And I think this kind of goes back to a lot of that nonverbal stuff that happens. How are we showing up on the call? It goes back to what we were talking about however many calls ago about control. What can I control? I can control how I show up on the call. I can control how I think about you. I can't control necessarily what's coming back at me, but I might be able to influence the situation by how I show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of those things are they're not helping you.
No, that is awesome. And I want to respond. There's a lot of, I'm going to go up and look at the chat, but there's one right here that's like super relevant. Person Patty described first made me think not a fit. Who can I refer to person to? Which is a really, really valid way to look at this. And it's also something I've looked at. It's like, okay, maybe I just don't work with those kind of people.
Totally.
Combined with, but maybe need not to assume it's a bad fit, could be an excellent fit. And this is the piece of puzzle that's dropped for me when I first did personality testings, did Myers-Briggs and stuff like that, is this idea that the people who have a different personality type from me, what I'm offering is actually of more value than when I am with a very similar personality type and we are naturally on the same page. And there's this idea that if we both, if we're both in a meeting and we have the same opinions on everything, one of us is not necessary. And what I see in these challenging situations, like I can see it, like this is my view, is like these people need what I have to bring because they need someone to spend the time and do the analysis and think things through and make plans and connect the dots because, like you said, they're too busy moving forward and they don't have the time to do that. And if they can offload that to somebody who is competent at it, how brilliant is that in terms of providing service? So I think this is something to look at as you grow and evolve your business. Is that in the beginning, finding people that are a good match personality wise for that ease of working together makes a lot of sense. I'm starting, this is one of the questions I have for myself. It's like, okay, but maybe it's time for me to up my communication skills game to be able to work with people who feel polar opposite to me. And that's exactly what this is. It's like there's, in our Venn diagram, there's not that much overlap in the circles. Most of our clients, Georgie, like we're so overlapped with our clients, it's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
Like, they are purpose driven, they are in transformation, they believe what we believe, they are like, like the fit is just so natural. And there's more of a separation. The fit is less natural. Not to say that the value isn't there. So.
Totally, and you're really right. It comes down to how can I up my communication game? I really believe there are ways to talk to just about everybody. Aside from like there are some people that maybe are just really jerky, and maybe they've got stuff going on. And again, even then you can have a different perspective. Maybe they have stuff going on for them and this is not the right time. And you just happen to be the really lucky person that got to be there for them to take it all in. Okay, that's fine too, and thank you and move on. But sometimes it's knowing that difference of, am I just saying they're not a right fit? because I just don't really want to deal with it and go there? Or can I look at this as, oh, I do like what they're doing. I did like them at some point. I think we have the same values and things are lined up. Where the problem is, I just don't know how to communicate because we have different personality styles. And we were kind of talking about this before we got on the call today about how people work together, you know, and is it being really clear about what that looks like? And sometimes it's so far apart, it just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Where there's too much, you'd have to each person would have to compromise too much, and it just wouldn't work. But again, that comes down to having the conversation with people and finding out. I was sharing with Patty, with this fellow that I'm partnered with in Belgium. We were like, oh, really like it. Beliefs line up, values line up. The next question I asked him, because he seems pretty organized. Let's just say organized. And I was like, are you a big picture person? Or are you a detailed person? Well, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Are you fly by the seat of your pants? Or I need every single detail of every single thing worked out before I can move? Because I know if you're at the extreme end of every single thing has to be figured out before I can move forward, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really, really hard. And he's like, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I like to have a structure. I like to have things planned out, and I like room for flexibility. Okay, I can work with that. So here's what we're going to do. Why don't you create the structure of how you see things, how you'd like to see it, what's going to work for you, and I'll plug in my stuff to that. But it's that initial conversation in the beginning to how is this going to work, and can we work together? Like we're planning a leadership retreat thing to Nepal, so we've got to work together, and we're in different countries. How is that going to work as we plan this thing? I'll probably never meet him in person till we get there. So what does this look like? But and also I know too, because I am very seat of my pants and wingy, I need some of the structure over here for this to work.
I'm thinking that there might be some details that need to be lined up there.
Really? And he comes up with things that I don't know, right? And so if he's seat of the pants like me, this is a disaster waiting to happen. I knew going in, so I know when I'm looking, so I need that thing. But it starts with a conversation. Like how do we do this? Which, if you're really paying attention in your initial conversations, you will start to pick up these things. Oh, they're a power person. Here's what I know about power people, or here's what I think I know about power people. How do I set this up? So that even then, at least the conversations are open moving forward, because more than likely, we're both going to slide into our natural patterns, because that's what we do. But we need to know how to be able to communicate when that starts to happen.
Cool. Comments in the chat.
All right.
I often ask clients what they mean when they say something because I want to be clear. It surprises them that there might be a misunderstanding.
Absolutely. Because we automatically assume everybody makes the same meaning of the word that we do. The thought that it could actually mean something different is foreign. And that's where a lot of miscommunication happens.
This is actually a really good instructional design tip too, if you happen to be teaching anything or writing something. And I learned this from a fellow named Sean D'Souza, and he calls it explain the obvious. And he says, whenever whatever it is that you're teaching, explain the obvious. It's obvious to you, might not be obvious to clients. And this really came home to me when I had a client say to me, Patty, I don't think people know what marketing is. They think it's the same as advertising. And it's like, that's an example. Explain the obvious. I think everybody knows what marketing is. It's a really common word. It's a really common business term. But it's like, do they see it the way I see it? No, not so much. So explain the obvious. You know, I often start my workshops with, this is what we mean when we talk about marketing. This is what we mean when we talk about sales. And it gets people on the same page, so you're using the same definition of the words. Because we assign different meanings to words that seem really simple.
Exactly.
Yeah, or we carry some emotion with that.
Totally.
It's not just the word and the meaning, it's how we feel about that particular word. The number of times I've had people like, ooh, I don't like using that word.
Exactly. Like, you mean like cold call?
Oh yeah, exactly. What does it mean? A cold call, right? Some
Yeah.
people believe that
Ooh,
it's any time you have to dial a phone,
exactly.
but it has specific terminology within sales. But even
Exactly.
professional salespeople don't all have the same definition of what a cold call is.
No, they do not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sales conversation. Totally.
Oh, this is a great. This is beautiful. I
Hey,
love this. This is how you get real value out of new information coming in. It's like, how does this apply, right? So here's an example. Um, I remember a call before. I knew you guys when I had my one program, and the person I was talking to didn't need that program, but could have used some of my help if I had approached them as a magical person, as opposed to coming in with an agenda to sell that single program. And it's like, this is brilliant. And I personally have been on the receiving end of a sales conversation like this, where I had somebody try to railroad me into a program I didn't want, when I would have very easily sprung for the personal coaching option that was a lot more money. But they were just so intent that they were filling their group program that they did not hear me. They did not listen to what I was looking for, and they lost potentially a really big sale. So it's like this is the thing. Like there's so much value in this for you to do it, to slow down and to pay attention and to be flexible and prescriptive in what you
yes,
offer as well. Something else we talk about.
totally.
Uh, Achieving compassion is the key to business and life, ongoing trial and failure, ongoing learning. Thanks for this topic. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is lifelong learning, this
Oh,
stuff. I don't think there's a done.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Nope, I don't think so.
This is good. Here's honesty for you. An academic advisor told me a story about a student. She recommended a course that might help them to think more deeply. And the student says, I don't want to think more deeply. And isn't that true?
Right? And what a beautiful example of an opening for a conversation. Like, that's what I really love about these things too, is like, and because they're the one person, they're probably like, what do you mean you don't want to think more deeply? Who wouldn't? Again, my projection of the world. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me more about that. Like, what is it that, what do you think deeply means? What is it? Why do you not want to do? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what a beautiful space for conversation and to get to understand someone's view of the world a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
Okay. Go. We have a couple of here's a couple of good questions for us.
Okay.
Question one: at what point does this become someone I am incompatible with and cannot work with? Where do I draw that line between the communication and the whether or not you want to work with them?
I think a lot of it comes down to values and beliefs, and then you looking at yourself and going, have I done all my work? Have I, what's my part in this? Am I also triggered? Am I also nattering back and forth and those kinds of things? Or, nope, I'm pretty good. I feel like I have showed up. I have had open communication. I have expressed what's going on here, and I'm just feeling it's constant resistance. Then that's where it might be time to. I just don't think this is going to work. But often I think it comes down to that honesty point of being able to look at myself and going, am I just wanting out of this because they're an idiot? Again, right? Like, not the best. And sometimes things won't be a fit. And it could be, oh, maybe I didn't ask the right questions in the beginning. Maybe I didn't set this up from the beginning to have this work, or to realize that this wasn't going to work. It's kind of like the personality types, right? Of super wing it, super detailed. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And like Patty and I were talking about how we approach the show and how we do things, we do it very similar. If one of us was like, this show has to be planned out to the letter a week in advance, it's not going to work for either one of you. I can tell you that right now, not happening. Where that would be a situation where we would be like, very calmly, there's no charge to it, that this just isn't a fit. Because I think that's when, it's just, there are certain components that just don't fit.
Yeah.
And there's no real emotion attached to it. It just is.
Personally, I find it kind of helpful to have some kind of blunt deciding questions. Like one of mine, and like I've straight out said this to clients or potential clients. It's like, do you want me to do what you say, or do you want my advice? It's like, where are we going here? And if they say, I just want you to do what I say, then I'm like, you would be better served with a freelancer. Find somebody that can execute this stuff for you, be cheaper than me, right? I'm expensive because I offer advice and guidance. And it's like that, and that to me, like that's really the distinguishing thing. And if they want my advice and guidance, that to me is a permission slip to show up and communicate with them, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes it's things like that. It's like, okay, now what is that kind of deciding piece of information that I need in order to, because I think too, it's kind of like a jerk filter too. It's like some things, like sometimes it's personality differences, different perspective, different point of view, and sometimes some people are jerks, right? It's like
Exactly.
nobody wants to work with jerks. But it's your
Exactly.
business, your choice, right? It's one of the lovely things we have. So we get a choice of who we decide to work with.
Exactly.
Personally, one of my questions for making this decision is like, am I going to learn something here? I like being challenged. I like learning. I like stretching my skills. And in some ways, in a lot of ways, I enjoy working with the clients that I term difficult because I feel I'm going to grow and learn from it. And especially if they're up to playing with me, right?
Exactly.
Which they often are.
Yeah, this is where I think, like for me, it's the purpose and the values. They're my filter, and then we can figure it out.
Here's one for you. Here's one for you. I love this. I see how discovery calls work for therapy work, transformation style services, etc. In my business, I find that the people that call me about getting training already know what they want. Group first aid training session. I am not sure that they want to spend too much time in discovery style call. I have other services I'd like to tell them about, but I'm not sure how to bring up the other ideas when they seem so rushed.
Awesome. I think you could go a couple ways with this. So when they're phoning, they might be like, hey, I'm just phoning to get some first aid training. Okay, before I give you some details, I need to ask you some questions. How much time do you have right now for the call? Do you have 15 minutes? Know how much time you have ahead of time. And then you might ask them, okay, so when you say first aid training, what does that mean for you? What are you looking for? I really like to make sure I provide everything my clients want. If you don't have a lot of time right now, yes, I do provide first aid training, and I really want to make sure I can deliver what it is you want. Could we set up a call where you have a little more time? Because I value my customers and I really want to provide excellent service and really deliver to you what it is that you want, something like that, where you can get a little more time to really understand. And I think most people are often, even if they're phoning, well, hey, I want a new computer. Okay, let me know a little bit more about that so that I can provide exactly what you want in the way you want it that's going to serve you in the best way. Because everything's back on them. We're like, oh, well, okay. And sometimes people, and this happens a lot, people want to, well, I just want to know the price. Just how much and can you do it? Yes, I can. And for me to be able to give you what you want, I need to ask you a few questions so I can get really clear on what it is you're really looking for. And I find most people are really okay with that. And again, it's just that setup thing. And then you will know how much time you'd actually like to have, what would be the ideal for that. So that would be my advice on that. Because people often aren't asked about themselves. Oh, what? Okay. So yeah, that's what I would do.
And I wonder if it might help as well, maybe to have a couple of questions or a couple of comments about the other services that are on offer, right?
Totally.
To even say, a lot of the people that we work with also have a need for this other thing and this other thing, or
Totally.
You know, maybe not even naming the thing, what the things are, but they often have a struggle with this kind of thing. They might have a struggle with tracking or keeping track of things, or making sure that certificates don't expire, or keeping track of who's trained and who's not, or something like that, depending on what your solutions, the additional solutions are, is to kind of bring up those things, to
Exactly.
let them know that you offer more than that.
Totally.
And but to make it about what clients are looking for more so than the actual services that you offer, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense at all.
Yeah, because it starts the conversation. The connection through the conversation builds the relationship.
Yes. Yeah, there is a done, helpfully pointing out here that yes, there is a done when you're dead.
Yeah.
That's why they call it lifelong learning. I'm a
Right?
big, you know, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this lifelong learning thing. This is what it's, you know, it's one of my reasons for being uh, in business. Actually, is because I believe that this is the most most challenging, richest, best personal development opportunity there is this route of business owner self-employment, because
Oh,
man, you will be faced with all kinds of stuff.
so true. So true.
You will find your edges.
You most certainly will. And that's, oh my God. Yeah. Maybe entrepreneurship should just be redefined as personal development.
It is an awesome personal development course. It's an amazing personal development course. Like that's why I love it. It's like I get to I get
Oh,
to continue to learn every day. It's awesome.
yeah, exactly. I agree. So much space.
Hey, we're only 3 minutes over time.
Oh, woohoo! I don't have an appointment today, so you see, I just keep talking. At least not for another hour. I got another hour for my next appointment, so I'm good.
We should probably let people get to work.
Yeah, that's how. Yes, you should go to work. Exactly. You should go to work. Go change the world. Go
Oh,
change the world.
excellent. We have an. What do we do tomorrow? We have. Oh wow. How about you tell us about it, Georgie? The inspiring interview for tomorrow.
Yes, our inspiring interview tomorrow is with a lady. Her name is Dr. Katie Branter. She is also a client of ours. She is a naturopathic doctor with many, 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 many skills. She also, the latest thing she's kind of adding to her practice right now is helping people with their sobriety and stay sober. But she has an incredible, incredible story. She has been through some tremendous loss that I don't think anyone would really want to go through, and how she has been able to overcome those things, show up, let her light still shine, and be the beautiful, compassionate human being that she is, and be able to take these and help other people in the world is really, really amazing. So we will be interviewing her, asking her all kinds of questions, hearing more about her story, what she's up to in the world, and how what she does can help you guys also, you know, with what you're doing. So really, really, really excited to have Dr. Katie tomorrow.
Excellent. And with that, we will say have a fantastic day. If you happen to be tuning in on the recording, you can learn more at 10kprogram.com. This is where you can find us online. Have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye.
Bye.